Hey, here we are.
Welcome
Hi.
to another episode of Tzuzamen. Hi, Tzipi.
Hi, Tzili.
And hi, Sapir.
Hi,
Sapir
Sapir.
Handelman.
Right.
Sapir Handelman is the guy who is leading the peace talk simulation that we do in the Charney Resolution Center. Sapir, tell us a little bit about it. I think it's better than I will explain what we're doing at the center because it's a variation of what you started, basically.
Yes. If we talk about conflict and conflict resolution and peace, so we have the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is the best laboratory in the world. Why to miss this kind of opportunity to learn about conflicts? So Tzili, me, and Nir that is going to join us, begin to think how to involve the people in the peacemaking process. Because we saw all the time that leadership are talking and it leads to nothing. So we developed something that we call solution-focused negotiations, people-to-people negotiations. We started with experiments. We took an Israeli delegation, Palestinian delegation in front of an audience. We gave them 5 sessions to reach agreements. We gave ground rules, not to demean each other, and not to go to historical debate, I did to you, you did to me, and so on and so on. We have a process.
But hold on, Sapir. Let's go
Yes.
back a little bit and tell us a little bit where you come from and how did you come about and how this was developed so people understand a little bit more about what we're talking about, because the conflict is here, but we need to get to it somehow.
Sure. I finished my PhD and I wrote about the ethical limits of manipulation. And there's a famous professor at Harvard University, his name is Herbert Kellman, and he was very interested in my work, so he invited me to Harvard. And I found out that Herbert Kellman is doing research in many dimensions, but most of his work was about diplomacy and peacemaking. I didn't know it, I came to speak about manipulation. And I started to learn what he did. Track 2 diplomacy, track 1 diplomacy. And then I started to look at situation in Northern Ireland and South Africa. And I came to conclusion, me and Kellman, that one of the missing components in almost any peacemaking initiative is the involvement of the people. And without the people, it's not going to work. Peace process progress, violence increase. Israelis believe that Palestinians are not human beings. Palestinians believe that Israelis are not human beings, and everything is collapsed. And the question was how to involve the people in the peacemaking process. So I started to develop something that we call public negotiating congress. I learned what they did in Northern Ireland and South Africa. They did something that called multi-party congresses. Politicians, visionary leaders, invited all the political parties to a major public negotiating congress to debate. And these congresses establish, collapse, reestablish again and again, violence increase until at certain points, the people said enough and leadership can conclude agreement, use Kellman's tools. So I came to these ideas and Kellman told me, if you're not going to publish it, I'm going to publish it. So I published it and I started to build models. Then I got some kind of a fellowship and peacemaking in St. Louis. And I presented a lecture. I gave a lecture about this kind of models and how to involve models, elites and people. Then one of the audience asked me, okay, you present model, what you're going to do with it? And I said, let's start to do an experiment. Let's take an Israeli delegation and Palestinian delegation, give them 5 sessions to reach agreements. 2 ground rules, not to demean each other and not to go to historical debate.
And how did you choose the people?
When you do it in abroad, you just publish it and you get Israelis and Palestinians that are there. And we have 2 moderators, Israelis and Palestinian.
Mm-hmm.
So I choose the Israelis and I try to do it that will be people from all the political spectrum. And Tzili, you know better than me that in New York, you have people from everyone. You have settlers, you have whatever you want. And Professor Mazen Badra, my partner, he chose the Palestinian delegation. So we started to do it. So the first stage is trust building measures. Now, we can distinguish between two kinds of trust: working trust and basic trust. Basic trust is something that me and my daughters, that they know that they trust me, that I'll do the benefit, everything for their benefit. It's something that is not achievable in situation of intractable conflict. Israelis do not believe one word of Palestinians, and Palestinians do not believe one word of the Israelis. But you can develop something that called working trust. The meaning is that I'm going to show them that my interest is to reach peace, and they are going to show me that their interest is to reach peace. And then we develop something that, as I called, working trust, and we can continue working together. So after they reach trust building measure, then they started to negotiate what is the solution to the conflict, and they negotiate different proposals. They reach, for example, one state, two states, whatever you want, and then the main four topics that to implement this kind of a solution. For example, borders, Jerusalem, refugees, and the securities. So we did it in major universities around the United States and Canada. And we saw that they all the time reach agreements. And Tzili, according to your question, we found out that, for example, that Palestinians that are resident a lot of years in the United States are very different than Palestinians here. The priority is different. So we did stipulation, you can participate in this only if you are no more than 5 years in the United States.
Right.
But then we said, okay, we show it, but we have to do it in Israel and Palestine, because this is where the conflict is. So I came back to Israel, and I was sure that I'm going to win the Nobel Prize because I find the solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Until now, I'm disappointed that no one is giving to me. And we started to do small congresses. And I met Tzili, and I met Nir, and Tzili put her input and her center. And at the beginning, it was very, very difficult how you bring Palestinians. So the first stage, we did it in conference rooms at Zohar House in the middle of Tel Aviv. And we bought settlers, we bought generals, whatever. And again, the rich agreement. But we saw that we cannot attract attention. So we started to do it in the streets. This was the second stage. The first stage was at conference rooms. And by the way, to be in the United States, a big hero is very easy. To be in Israel, it's much more complicated, much more complicated. Yeah. So we did it in Habima Square. And when you do it in Habima Square, 1,500 people comes because people are passing there. So we have a TV show, and then we did it in Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, when you do something like this, violence starts because you just put a sign, Israeli-Palestinian Public Negotiating Congress, in the middle of the Mashbir Plaza. Hundreds, if not thousands, people are coming, and violence starts. Yeah. And then the police have to make order. And then we did it in Ramallah. Wow. And if you think that there's Israeli crazy people, you didn't meet the Palestinian crazy people. So when you do it in Ramallah, it was also they threw stones, but we are stubborn. We do not give up. Even we continue and we negotiate and we reach agreement and we march to the prime minister home to give the agreement and so on. So this was the second stage, to do it outdoor. The third stage was to do mass public negotiating congress. We brought 600 people to Rothschild Boulevard in Tel Aviv, 300 Palestinians, 300 Israelis, all over Rothschild Boulevard. It began to be one peacemaking stage. And a few months later, we brought it to Rabin Square, 2,000 Israelis and Palestinians negotiate peace. Can you imagine that in Friday morning, 18 buses from the West Bank are coming to Rabin Square, and 1,000 Palestinians with the flags are getting out of the buses to negotiate peace with the Israeli-Palestinian public. And we cooperated, so we started to think what to do. So Tzili said, it's all nice, but we have to institutionalize it. And then my idea was to start bringing it to schools. And every year we used to take 3-4 schools, Israelis and Palestinians, and they negotiate peace in different places.
Well, first of all, just to explain a little bit, because what I asked Sapir is to adopt it for teenagers, and because I wanted to do it in the center. And in the center, it was given because we had 20% Israeli students, 20% Palestinian students, and then we had the student from all over the world. So it was already a lab. So we just planted it there. And then we had the Israeli and the Palestinian schools, which we had a very different program with them. And we even took it to the University of Haifa, where we started to do it on a much larger scale, and the Corona froze the whole thing. So, okay, you can continue.
Is it a straight negotiation process or acting, a role acting? Like,
No, it's really, you have Israelis and Palestinians. Israelis in the Israeli delegation, Palestinian delegation.
So there is no
No.
role change. There is no change of role.
No.
So it's not a
Israelis and
simulation,
Palestinians.
actually.
It's very difficult.
Well, with the but when we say
Simulation is when-
simulation, it's
yeah.
not the official. It's not the government. It's not.
Nothing to do with government,
Yeah.
but I thought that simulation
No, I
is
know,
when
I
you
know.
play, I play Palestinian, and if you're Palestinian,
Well,
you
in the school, especially in the center, it is a simulation because you have to cut it to groups, and not everybody's Israeli, not everybody's Palestinian, and not everybody's the rest of the world. So that's why. Yes, Sapir.
The next projects that we did, we established something that's called the Congress of the People. We took 120 Israelis, and I presented them 7 options, 7 alternative solutions to the conflict. They picked 3 of them. And for half a year, every month they negotiate, every group negotiate, 120 people, you divide it into 3. And every group negotiate different solutions for half a year. And the plan was that in March last year, to have a huge conference when thousands of Israelis and Palestinians coming to Tel Aviv, we present them the 3 alternative solutions and they vote in ballot boxes. However, we have the Corona crisis, so we have to stop it.
So everybody's current.
Here,
yeah.
And we have we had the BBC cover, an Australian channel cover, and then Nir Caftori entered the picture. And Nir says, we do it all the time. We got a lot of experience. Let's do it online. We got a lot of experience in solution-focused negotiations. Let's help ordinary people to handle their disputes. And I just want to say one thing in brackets. I don't know if our initiative contributed or not contributed. The fact is that now you see in the government Jewish people and Arab people sitting in the same governments.
Yes.
So just a second, I want Nir to introduce himself and tell us what he's doing, and then we can put it together with the whole idea. Yes, Nir.
Hello there. Okay, Sapir made it simple. I will make it even simpler. My life has 2 parts. One before I met Sapir and the one since I met Sapir.
Oh.
Wow. Typical moments.
It was a major moment in my life. But in my background, as Sapir mentioned, I was in the Israeli high-tech company. I used to work for Amdocs, which is a very large IT Israeli company. I was also on relocation in St. Louis, Missouri. So me and Sapir were in the same place, but not in the same time. After I left Amdocs,
He was the vice president. He's very modest.
Not the vice president. In a large company like Amdocs, there are tens of vice presidents. I was one of them, but I was the CIO, Chief Information Officer of the company.
Wow.
When I left Amdocs, I moved to work for IDC, which is the Interdisciplinary Center. Now it is a private university not far away from here in Herzliya.
Reichman.
Yeah, Professor Reichman is the head and the founder. And I used to work for him as, again, something similar to CIO. And in addition to the regular IT work, we tried to push also new technology for learning for the students. So the professor will not just stand as he used to in front of the blackboard or whiteboard and talk and draw some stuff on the board, but use some new technology in order to help the students, the Y generation, to be more active during their lessons. So this is about my professional career. I met Sapir because we have apartments. My family has an apartment in the same block or building where he lives now. So in one of the meetings where all the tenants were arguing about what to do with the bad situation of the building, they were like discussing for 3 hours, you know, in the Israeli way, shouting, not allowing anyone to finish a sentence, not agreeing about anything. And it was almost a disaster. And then somehow, by luck, just before we all left very frustrated, I suggested a solution that we will do a little bit of that, and everyone will be happy, and then we will find the right thing to do. And probably because everyone was already exhausted, they agreed, and we left the room happy, and there's a good goal to have together. So the next morning, Sapir called me and he said, "Nir, you were fantastic. You were amazing. I need you. You must come and negotiate with the Palestinians."
Just let me interrupt a little bit. I went to the internet. I said, "This is not a regular person. A regular person don't have this kind of idea. So I look at the internet and I know what I found. Yes, please continue.
Okay, I didn't look at the internet. I thought maybe Sapir is a secret agent from the government, and he suggested I will solve the peace process with the Palestinians. So I said, yes, I'm coming to negotiate with Palestinians. But it appears that I had to go to the beach of Tel Aviv for 2 days on the weekend, me and 12 other Israeli guys, and we discussed with the 12 Palestinians who came. I must admit it was a very special experience for me because I think I never saw a Palestinian face to face before that in my life. Only when I was on, you know, my military service and on Miluim, but I saw them on the other side of my rifles. Yeah, so it was not the same thing. Right. So it was really 2 days very impressive, and what was really more amazing that we find a solution. Of course, not a professional solution, but Sapir gave us 5-6 different dimensions of the conflict, and in all of them, we could find something that was acceptable by the Israeli side and the Palestinian side, and we wrote it down. And it was a very interesting experience from my perspective. So I agreed later to join one more time, something like that, or even twice. Until I was tired to discuss the same thing again and again, but I stayed in touch with Sapir and helped him in the background with the organization. I will tell you frankly that I was frustrated when after we did the big rally in the Kikar Rabin with 2,000 people, 1,000 from each side. Our original vision was to double it every few months or every year. So after 2,000, we should have reached 4,000, 5,000, and 10,000. And I believe that if 10,000 people will sit, you know, in one big square in Israel, then it will have a real effect. The government will not be able to ignore it. The press will come. The international press will come. But for internal reasons in the organization, it was found that it will be difficult, almost impossible. And actually, we never did a larger scale meeting than the one in Kikar, in the Rabin Square. and Sapir followed different way, like education and things like that. And I not left, but I was less active in the organization. And then, as Sapir said, came the idea to maybe to do negotiation, not only face-to-face, but also online. I think he gave me the credit, and I don't deserve the credit that it was my idea. I think it was the idea of Sapir. And he approached me because I had the background that he thought is useful, the IT background that I brought with me. So we are doing some work on this initiative for the last year, 1 year, or maybe a little bit more. And maybe Sapir will now continue from that point to describe better our initiative.
I just want to ask a quick question. I mean, online, I don't know exactly how it's implied, but when you chose 10 or 10 and then 100 and 100 and 300 and 300, isn't it like a bit casting? I mean,
No.
how, or you know what I mean by casting? I mean, each one came and knew what role he's playing.
No, the Israelis playing the Israeli roles. On the Israeli side, there were only Israelis. Of course, Sapir tried to bring from Israelis from different kind of background, religious, even settlers from the West Bank, people from North Tel Aviv, which are known to be, Smolanim, leftists who don't care about holy places and things like that. So it was a mix of Israelis. Of course, from the Palestinian side, we were less able to know what kind or what type of Palestinians were coming, if they are all from the left Palestinian side or whatever, because there was a Palestinian who was selecting and bringing them. But actually, Israelis were representing the Israeli side and the Palestinian side.
Right, there are
And
two different sections because we cannot decide for the Palestinians and we cannot give them the permission to come. So it's really based on who can cross, who can come to us, who is active, who is not afraid to get hurt. It's a little bit different story. Sometimes it was more random, sometimes it was planned, sometimes you had different gatherings. And in Israel, it was easier because, we have access.
Yeah, so how do you explain that you could reach a consensus in so many, quite a few meetings?
Tzipi, let's start from the previous question.
The magic of Sapir way, maybe.
No, it's not the magic of Sapir. First of all, in the negotiations are in 4 levels. One is between the 2 delegations. One is within each delegations, because me and you are not, even we are in these Israelis, we don't agree with each other. And me and you certainly don't agree with each other on major topics. The 3rd dimension is between the delegation, the audience, and the 4th dimension is everyone with himself. Because everyone has doubts except of the fanatic. Fanatic don't negotiate with himself, and he will not come to this because this is a lost case. So the negotiation was sometimes, it's very, very funny because, Jewish people like to argue with each other. Sometimes the Palestinians argue so much with each other, so you don't know who was the Jewish and who was not the Jewish, except if you know the languages. So
yeah,
sometimes you sure you're not Jewish? This is first. Second, when I'm discussing refugees, I'm coming back home. So I'm coming to Ramat Aviv. He's coming back to Ramallah. And Tzili make program out of it. And it's televised. And when he said that all the refugees are going to come to the new Palestinian states, for example, he can pay a price for this. So this, for them, it's not a joke. And now, when you do mass congresses, when 2,000 people, you have 40 negotiating tables, you cannot elect the moderators. Because, when you have 5 negotiating tables, so I know the moderators, I know that when you have such a huge Congress, people that told me, I make the moderation course and I know what to do. So, okay, I give him some instruction, let's do it. And some of them should not even approach the negotiating table. They certainly don't know how to moderate. And then we come to your question. Look, solution-focused negotiation is a very powerful tool to reach agreement. I'll tell you another example. Immanuel Kant, the great philosopher, says that if you take a bunch of criminals and put them on an island, they will come to an agreement how to create a decent society. They will come with a constitution. He just formalized it and didn't say how it's going to happen. We saw it in our own eyes, and this is the born of the organized crime. Lucky Luciano took all the head of the mafia to Atlantic City for 3 days. And in 3 days, he built a constitution and built an organization with rules and how to behave and how to this. This is the power of this kind of things. And what we are doing, we're talking about solution-focused negotiation. Instead of focusing on the problems, we are focusing on practical solutions. We are not analyzing the problem. Why the refugees are like this? We are neighbors, we are destined to live together. The refugees are not going to vanish. What we are going to, practical solution to this. Now, at certain stage, when we started to think about online, Nir, was everyone give the credit to another one.
We give both the credit, just let's move on.
Okay. Everyone is in his personal life has conflicts, family, friends, and he leaves them behind because there are barriers. He doesn't feel comfortable to negotiate and to solve it. He don't know how to do it. He thinks that the situation is going to aggravate. So he leaves the conflict and he's frustrated. It's going to every one of us. And the question was how we bring the knowledge that we learned from the simulations, from the congresses, to every house in Israel and Palestine. So we start to develop our initiative. His name is Negoflict, Negotiation and Conflict. And we said we are going to work in 4 dimensions. One dimension is the academic level, to develop models, and I'll present the model later, how to negotiate solution-focused negotiation, short terms, and to write articles. The second dimension is the general public, to tell about case studies, to give lectures, and to give this kind of knowledge. The third leg is clinics and mediation clinics and centers in universities and in the community. We're actually going to start very soon one. And the fourth leg is the application.
I have a question.
Sure.
How do you overcome the emotional barrier moving from a interactive human, activity to technology?
Okay. So the initiative combined human mediator and computer technology. Computer cannot replace human mediator. It can help him. Mm-hmm. Computer cannot. Now, in order for people to reach an agreement, it's function of 4 variables: motivations, rules, emotions, and ideas. And let me elaborate. Now, before, let me tell you something online. When you speak about a conflict like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, there's the contact theory. Bring Israelis and Palestinians together, that they will see each other and that they see that they're human beings. In family conflicts, sometimes you have to take them apart because when they're sitting together, they're making everyone angry.
Yes, right.
When taking apart and let them think in a clear mind, the results are different. And we did a lot of negotiation like this. So the first variable is motivation. If me and Tzipi are in dispute and we don't have motivation to solve it, so nothing is going to help.
Right.
However, motivation you can motivate people to solve it. How? For example, a mother, her sons are fighting all the time. so she has the motivation to do it. A sister, I'm telling you about 3 cases that we're doing all the time. A sister that her sisters-in-law are fighting all the time. So we developed something that we call backroom negotiation. The mother is leading the negotiation, and we are from behind tell her what to do and how to do it.
It's
So
almost
she
like
created-
psychodrama, no?
What you say?
In
It's
a
almost
way,
like psychodrama. Psychodrama?
psychodrama is like you're playing the part of the mother or you taking place. And here, basically, they are sitting here in the little ear and they tell her what to say. So it's a little bit different.
Yes, okay, sorry.
We guide her, and she leads the negotiation. We exactly what Tzili said. So this is the first motivation. Second, we need rules to the games, not to demean each other, not to accuse, not to get historical debate. We distinguish between resolvable conflict and not resolvable conflict. Conflict that we believe that is resolvable is conflict that you can negotiate. Viewpoints we cannot negotiate. For example, if Nir and I love Miss Universe, I cannot tell Nir, you know, you love her 50% and I love her 40%. Or you're going to love her from Sunday until Tuesday, and I'm going to love her from Wednesday until Saturday. It's impossible. But we can negotiate that he will go after her for Sunday until Tuesday, I'm from Wednesday until Saturday, and he will start. When we have this case that a young lady wants to spend out late, and her mother is all the time don't want her to spend out late. When they start to argue if she is mature enough or not mature enough, this is a dead end. But when she comes to solution-focused negotiation and you ask, what is the hour that can balance between the mother that think about the safety of the lady and the lady that want to have time, they reach a solution. So this is the second, the rules of the game. Third is emotions. Sometimes, Tzili, as you know, when the emotions come up, people cannot talk to each other. So we have certain tools to get over this. One of these is shuttle negotiations. When the emotion goes up, Tzili and I are not going to speak directly. Every message has to come through the moderator Nir, and just when he approves my suggestion to tell Tzili, he brings it to Tzili. When the emotions are relaxed, you go back to the negotiation.
So I don't understand what Nir will do.
Nir is the moderator.
So you are developing a program that can interfere?
It's basically an app, right?
Yes. Think about WhatsApp, smart WhatsApp.
Yeah, but can Nir explain how it works?
Okay, we started with, of course, the idea that we will develop the intelligent part of it, an AI engine. Okay. But very fast, it was clear to me at least, and then I explained it to Sapir, that computers are not so intelligent as people think usually. On the contrary, they are dumb machines. And we will not be able to achieve what we want only with the computer. And maybe we will be able to achieve part of it, but this will be only on the longer term, because it will require a huge development with not just developers. We will need people with like PhD in different disciplines. So, because we have to understand emotions, you have to understand language. It's very complicated.
Perception.
And even the best you can achieve is really not very good. If people cannot negotiate, can we expect computers to negotiate instead of them? Moderate. So we introduced the concept human in the loop. Okay, we reduced the amount of responsibilities that we thought to give to the computer itself. And currently, in the first version that we are developing, it's mainly, I would say, more procedural. Okay, it counts the number of sessions, it checks the amount of time that pass between one response to the next question, or even the amount of time that the person it takes him to type his response. Think like that. We can count.
Just a second, but Nir, so how can you, is this process can unblock blocks in the way of presenting the ideas, or being angry or upset, or getting over something? How is the interaction between the moderator and the machine in order to help the people to cross all the blocks on the road?
Okay, the main interaction is not the moderator and the machine, but between the three people, okay? The moderator and the two negotiators.
Right.
We trust the mediator first to recognize that something wrong is happening, so then he can move to what Sapir just described, the shuttle mode negotiation.
Yeah.
He closed the direct connection between the two people, and
Yeah.
they can only talk to him for some time, until he explained them. For example, look, the language that you are using is not going to help you to do any progress, or you know, think like that, until he reach an agreement with part one that if you want to pass a message to the other party, let's try to write it in the right way, okay? And only when they reach that agreement, then you open again the triple negotiation, and the other side will see the point of the other side in a way that will convince him to continue the process. Okay, so yes, this is human, not machines. What we plan to provide in the background to the mediator is usually slowly our database will have more and more information, because everything that is going to pass in the application will be, of course, kept in the database and will be analyzed. And when at the second part or later part of the life of the application, the engine will be smart enough, it will push.
Whoops. Well, we're talking about this process.
We're talking about this process, and it's stuck now.
All right, we're sorry, because you know it's not easy to do a negotiation for peace. So we have a lot of technological problems with the high-tech
and life is part of this.
Right, but Nir has to leave us. So thank you, Nir, and we'll talk again, and we'll stay with you.
It was my pleasure.
Bye.
Yes.
Okay.
Enjoy the day and the process.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Sapir, let's go back.
Where did we stop? And Nir will disappear.
Right.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
So, one thing about if we continue about emotion, there's in high tech thing that called sentiment analysis.
Yeah.
Which application can analyze the sentiments and can send the moderator notification. Look out. Here's the emotions are up. By you know, he can see the certain words. He has a dictionary, certain words, the intents of writing, and so I can analyze and send the moderators some notification. Look out, the emotions are high. About ideas, I'll give you an example. For example, you have a couple, and this is a complex negotiation. We speak about a micro negotiation that you have, you know, a mother and a child. We're in heritage conflict. We had many like this. But divorce is much more complicated. But for example, the first stage, you're coming with your wife, and you say we have a problem in the relationship. So the question is what you want to do with it. And then the computer help the moderators. And looking at, you know, they have 4 options. They can get divorced, they can have open relationship, they can have share home, separate life, they can have separate life, share home, what they want to do with it. When you start to negotiate, you expand the pie. It's not the property, it's also the benefit of the child. So the computer told me, you know, you have to create a value here. It's much more than developing, you destroying the other's life.
Right.
You have 4 topics that you have to negotiate. Property, custody of the child, support of the child, and support of the lady. Let's start. If you do it in the state of New York, you negotiate in the shadow of the law. So the law said that until the age of 13, the boys are going to the mother. So it can help you to go to practical solutions. This is the idea. But this is much more complicated.
But Sapir, I want to ask you something. You know, you
Yes.
keep talking about and the computer, and it's not the only thing, but I have a very strong image of this human figure computer, the sweet, sweet, beautiful, gorgeous, designed person, computerized person that can welcome you in every way, you know, when you come home and just squeeze your heart, and it's a machine. So if I'm thinking about something like that, let's say that the moderator is a person like this, computerized person that has the perfect features that can squeeze every good emotion to honey, you know, from people, and you cannot resist, and he cannot answer back. And, you know, he's basically programmed to calm you down, and there's no way, there's no feedback for anger. Do you think this is something that can help and can work with human negotiation if you really take the computer?
I don't think, as Nir said, I don't think the technology is in situations that the computer can moderate. It's impossible. You don't have such.
But it's not to moderate instead of people, because there's something, I remember that when I saw it for the first time years ago, I saw it in Palo Alto, and I went to a place that Beta 8. It's like a playground for beautiful toys like that. And I was so taken by that. And, you know, and you want to talk to this thing, and nothing, you know, they talk like a machine. And then you really want to say, wow, this is so nice to have somebody like this to welcome you when you come home. Doesn't matter what, you just, you know, it's like to put the weapon outside before you come home and just to give it a hug. And then it repeats itself. Hello, my name is whatever, what's yours, have a good day, whatever. If you feed this computer with few sets of conversations, or at least sayings that whatever you say, it repeats itself till you say, you know what, I give up, let's hear, or let's talk, or let's let him stay in the room and watch us. But you know, it's nothing, it's programmed. Can't it help? Can it help?
Perhaps I have two things to say about it. One thing that I amuse myself with an idea that you have a very smart machine that have the best phrases of the best courtship in the world. We know when men court a wife. So I'm trying to date someone, and he analyzed the text and give me the best phrases, you know, and she fall in love with the bot, not with me, because
Sure.
I have someone that back me. But let's assume that she has the same machine. So the computers negotiate with itself. This is one dimension. So
this is like taking the movie Hair to the next level, you know, but we're here still, so it has to work with us.
Yes. The assumption in solution-focused negotiation is that people have the solutions themselves. You just have to stimulate it. Because people, you know, even the young lady and her mother, they brought the solution. We just help them. You need it. So if you have someone that gives them the motivation to do it, of course it can help. In certain cases, the machines maybe can do it.
Right.
However, you need commitment to the rules. Yeah. I don't see at this stage that computer replace human beings.
Yes, but listen but I don't understand something. So you tell them don't talk about the past, right?
No, I'm not talking
like this. Okay. However, how can you when I come to the negotiation table, how can you clean my fears? How can you clean my conformity to my group? how do you clean even my preconceived ideas that are internalize it? It's already part of me. Even if I don't put it on the table and I don't discuss the past or the differences between us, I'm still me, carrying with me all those traits. How do you clean it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm not asking you to get rid of your past, and I don't ask you to forget it. It's impossible. I'm trying to make you focus on solutions and not of the cause that led to this problem. I'll give you an example. We have an inheritance conflict, very difficult conflict between two brothers. Her sister moderated and we helped them. So she told them the first thing, what are you doing? Our father in the sky is crying, our mother is dying. Look what you're doing. And try to think how to reconcile for the rest of the family. So instead of starting, I did to you and you did to me, let's think about practical solutions that our mother can rest in, our father can rest in peace, and our mother can help us. When I told you about the example of the child and the mother, we are not entering the question why the mother wants her to come late, early, and why. This is a given. Let's think about practical solutions that can solve it. To tell you that it's going to solve all the problems of the world, it's not going to solve all the problems.
Yeah, I understand.
But at least they found a way to get over it. If you have a problem, and this is a little bit like to coaching, a lady and her boy. A boy, when he's coming home, is all the time losing his temper. Why? Because different expectations. Different expectations are, he wants to use the computer and so they, during the negotiations, they find a way how to interact. Whenever he's losing his temper, he's doing some kind of a sign, he go to the room, relax, and then they discuss it when they have clear mind. And another issue, and this, especially in inheritance conflict, the computer can help you, and the moderator, you can divorce a wife, but you cannot divorce
The kids.
a sibling. The fact that you took care of your parents, it doesn't mean that you deserve a prize. This is part of your duty. And this kind of information, because this is repetitive, help the moderator. And the last issue that I want, intimacy between couple. And this is something that all the time going back. For example, the husband, in one of the recent examples, one of the psychologists that work with us led it. I told his wife, I want her to love you, to love me more. This is something that cannot negotiable. She doesn't love you anymore.
But you can hug him once
say
a day.
that maybe she loved her in the past and how to revive it. So they came to an agreement how to fight, to go out, once a week to dinner, but you cannot negotiate. She doesn't love you. She doesn't want any intimate relation with him. So you have to be very practical and not to forget about the past. And if you bring the past just in a try and constructive way, no, you did to me and I did to me, because this is impossible.
Wow, listen, Tzili, there is so much components to this conversation, and it's so much. No. I think it's wonderful because the big picture is that there are few things that you said that actually can convince everybody that it's possible to bring two people from two different sides, and by conducting it and have rules, we can proceed. But it doesn't. The leaders are not doing it, or I'm not sure if anybody does it with them when they meet.
The question is
they did it in Camp David. They did it in Oslo.
But the question is also a generation question, because this kind of language is not appealing to every generation and every age. If you have an old person in one of the villages, I don't know if they can relate to this even.
Yeah.
It's
So who is
something
your,
that is really, but it's something that needs to be addressed because most people today, most of the people that are involved in what's going on, they are familiar with this way. The question is really, but you know, it's like based on experience. Like after every simulation, we analyze, we learn, we think, we rethink for the next time, we change certain things, we try to adjust it, we listen to what they have to tell us, what was working, what wasn't working. So the core is there, but you're playing around it all the time, and it changes all the time. It changes all the time.
That's really fascinating, Tzili.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating, the whole process. And I think that at least I'm optimistic that at one day there can be a pivotal moment when it will break through.
Well,
you know,
that's what we hope for.
Wishful thinking?
No, not wishful
you
thinking.
Keep working hard.
I mean, if it's a wishful thinking, we can close everything and go home.
Wishful thinking, I mean in the context of we hope for that and we're going to, to push it.
In one hand, hope
we're going to have a pool of
mediators. Very big word, but also tricky.
Yeah.
But we keep doing.
Yeah.
Right, Sapir?
Amazing. Tzili, thank you again for introducing me.
In the personal, just the last word, in the personal life, in general, you're going to have a pool of mediators and everyone has to have stars, some rank, according to his success.
Wow.
And people can choose it.
Like in
and just until he reach 4 or 5 stars, he cannot charge money for it. And when you talk about academic center or academic clinics, what we are going to do, you have pool of mediators and the students themselves, you guide them, you lead them, and they do it in the community, they do it with them. People, even, the first time you can come to the clinic, meet with them, then you continue to negotiate online. And one of the amazing things is, you see people that sitting in the same house and they negotiate through the computer instead of speaking to each other because they cannot speak to each other. Just all the time. And
one time is that the computer is not taking side. So the
moderator.
Even if it works for few, every time something else works for few. Whatever we can do in order to work systems for people to really overcome fights and arguments and be able, you don't have to be friends, you don't have to be, to have active peace, just
to listen, even to listen.
At least stop the violence and the war.
Yeah.
So, Sapir, let's hope for the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
thank
you everybody share with us.
And
the tzuzamen
next week.
Next week.
Bye.
Bye.